Hello, on this rather wonderful day. It is the 21st of December, which means it's the solstice, and it is also on the same day a new moon. So pretty powerful. It would not surprise me in the least if there is some big event in the news that takes place today, knowing how things will often be played out following sort of astral markers, as it were. But anyway, I wanted to wish everybody a wonderful solstice. And at the end of this video, I am going to share with you what my mission is. And then I'm going to leave it there. But the video that will follow this, I will explain exactly what I mean in what I announce at the end of this video. So please do watch to the end. Now, it's been rather wet overnight, but a little bit of manifesting. It's like, to make this video, I need dry weather. Could do with being a little bit warmer. But at least it's dry and it's turning into blue skies and the sun is coming through, which is a wonderful sign. But what I wanted to do was go over more on what I talked about in that last video, which goes back to Friday the 12th, where it was rain all day. And in particular, talk about things like meditation. Because remember, we are at that sort of midpoint. We are the connection between spirit and matter. A lot of you will say, oh, I have trouble meditating and such like. Well, something as sort of mundane as sawing wood is a perfect meditation, or washing up, or even painting a wall or something like that. Something that is repetitious, so the avatar can actually be getting on with something whilst the mind is open to what are called spiritual downloads. Sawing is a good one, a good example, and it's the one that happened for me on that Friday the 12th. I've got Damiana trying to climb on my lap now. Because with sawing, you've got to pay a certain amount of attention to what you're doing, so you don't slice your fingers with the saw and injure yourself. So whilst your mind can be immersed, the avatar can actually get on with something, but you're walking two worlds at the same time by doing it in this way, rather than going into that sort of accepted view of meditation. So, as well as that's what came through about what the dandelion reveals and what trees reveal, there was a lot more to that. And I'm just trying to recount now. Actually, before we talk about that, and it is highly significant to this, I don't know how many of you have ever had a dream where you have actually seen yourself in the dream. Well, that happened to me on Tuesday night, the day before that sort of almost not being able to make it to Monchique, giving it over to the Oversoul and saying, look, give us a break here. I really need some help. And then being presented with an angel in the form of Shelley, who is totally on the same wavelength. What a start of a beautiful friendship there. But it's like everything else, allow the bad things to pass. It follows that same pattern. Let the rain clouds come and pass through, and it opens up to blue skies and sunshine, as is evident that is happening right now. Beautifully, when the external is choreographing what I'm talking about in this way. That's happened before as well on several occasions. It's that saying, you just can't make this up. So anyway, in this dream I had on the Tuesday night, I looked in the mirror. I think I was sort of checking my sort of appearance. And what was surprising is I didn't see this face. I saw a face that I loosely described as being like Jim Morrison. And certainly like Jim Morrison in the style of clothing, the Jacobean shirt, and there was like a black leather jacket and black leather trousers and a rather beautiful belt. But facially, and it's been confirmed to me, it was an actor called Richard Beckinsale. He was the support role in a comedy series in I think it was the 1970s, called Porridge, which was set in a prison in England. But what's significant about Richard Beckinsale, and no doubt I can, well, actually I can decode the name. Richard again means lion. Beckinsale, well, you're being beckoned to go inside your vessel, hence the reference to sails. But this Richard Beckinsale died of a heart attack, either in his late 30s or early 40s. So that is highly significant. And now I'm not saying I'm going to have a heart attack. What I feel is actually happening, because last weekend and this weekend I've got sort of stomach cramps, which are accompanied by quite a bit of diarrhea. So if I have to stop this video in a rather a hurry and bring it to an abrupt halt, you know why. But again, I see this as a reflection. We're passing through this reality, having this physical experience, so that's reflected internally is something is passing through me. Add a bit of humour, that always helps lift the spirits and things. So going back to while I was sawing on the Friday, something else which also ties into this came through, and that is the family that I was placed with, i.e. not my biological family. The maternal grandfather in that worked for Austin Motors on the Austin 7. And he passed at the age of 53. This came through while I was sawing. And that was to do with the heart. I believe they had to open up his rib cage to try and massage his heart to get it working. But by the time he'd got to I think it was the Royal Middlesex Hospital, he was already dead. So again, that's highly significant. It's all to do with the heart that is coming through in these things. There were some other things as well. They've eluded the mind, but they'll probably come back at another point. So the theme very much at the moment is to do with going inside, looking below the surface, getting to the heart of things, and also this passing through. And it's significant that it is the solstice, because that's reflected in, this is the shortest day of the year for daylight. And after a rest period of 3 days, the sun will rise again, something that has been hijacked by Christianity. Now, this is something else to be very much mindful of. There's a lot of energy being generated in the collective, either in the sense of materialism, buying Christmas presents, or the whole religious fiasco. Where the attention goes, the energy will flow. But when it is something completely made up and false, like the whole story of Jesus as being an historical being of just over 2,000 years ago, where is that energy really going? I don't take part in it for that reason. because what am I giving my energy to? And a lot of people are going to face those January blues because they've overspent trying to appease their biological families with material gain and such like. It's quite a horrendous ritual, and I don't see the point of it really, because every day to me is a celebration. It's brought very much home as, well, if I am having a heart attack and this is my last day and therefore my last video, which was part of the title of the last video, then anything else after that is a bonus. And how beautiful. I can now feel the heat from the rays of the sun. That's beautiful. So just as the system seems to follow scripts to do with astrology, well, I can also see that it's almost a prediction that 2026 is going to be, personally, a phenomenal year, and may also be for you in the most positive way. And I feel that is being reflected in the path of the sun. We will rise again, as it were, and radiate out our light, because it is about the internal sun. So I wanted to actually go over something that I did talk about, but show you with a sort of graph, which is not going to be easy with Demiana on my lap. So I can't see if you can even see this. We'll try and do this as best we can. So we have this vertical line here. It's probably going to come out in reverse on the video. Oh, Demiana, please. So when your soul comes into an avatar, you are at this high point where you know everything. But with such things as having to learn to master these physical bodies, because there's always a reset, so you have to relearn things again. So with learning to walk, learning to talk, learning the alphabet, learning words, learning to speak, and so on and so on, it's almost like a sensory overload from the external, and it comes at the expense of the forgetting of who you are. And we start this long trajectory from this high point, and this midpoint here can move either way. So it could be a very sharp descent, or it can be a very long drawn out descent. Now the linear line, the timeline at the bottom here, hopefully you can see that. If we take the maximum sort of human age as 120 years, that fits perfectly that number 4 is a door, because you have such a thing as a Saturn return at the age of 30, at the age of 60, at the age of 90, and in most cases, theoretically, the age of 120. So hopefully, let's see if we can, if Demiana keeps still, we can balance this on her back. Oh dear, it is not going to be very successful. But you end up, hopefully, with the line, the timeline and the experiences, that you start this long uphill climb back to where you started, where you rediscover the knowledge of who you are. Now look very carefully at what this also shows. This is what I would call the sort of ideal, where at the age of 60 it's the midpoint between this descent and this ascent. But it can happen in some cases at the age of 30, hence you've got the story of Jesus and beginning his ministry at the age of 30. But for some it may be that you require more life experiences, and you may actually have what is called the birth from above at the age of 90. But for the majority that are on a spiritual path, I feel it is at the age of 60. It seems to be the optimum. It's the middle path, 60 being half of 120. Excuse me. As I mentioned on a video some months ago, probably on the old channel, going on from what Jason of Archaix said about 1,000 years is one day to God. Well, if you break that down further, from the outside of this reality, you are only playing a video game, i.e. coming into this physical reality for the maximum of 2 hours, which would be the 120 years. But time is something very different here. So what you actually get with this graph, please, Demiana, do not move, so we can hold this up. You have a pillar here. You have a pillar here. You can probably also see on this idealized graph, you have this and this, so maybe you can see the V, CV. You can also see the M. You can also see perhaps the double V or the W being shown here, the M and the W. M is significant, obviously, because it is the 13th letter or character of the alphabet. So there's a lot being reflected. It also reflects the IXI, the 9 and 11 in Roman numerals. And it also reflects a very sort of basic idea of the optic nerve. From your left eye and your right eye, you have the optic nerves that are like the pillars. But there's also in that optic nerve a center point where the left and right eye will come together, which also forms that IXI shape as well. I thought that was highly significant and wanted to share that and show you in this illustration. I hope it comes out well on the video, because all I'm getting is a back reflection here. It's sort of being blinded by the light, as it were. Because certainly the spiritual downloads, the speed that they come when they do come, and which was the case on the 12th, was such a phenomenal rate that sort of almost rivaled the amount of rainfall, the downpour that came through on that day. But life is wonderful. I have no complaints about anything. Now I'm in the process of dismantling. I don't know how much this is going to show. Dismantling this structure that the wind has sort of blown at an angle, and I don't know how much longer it's going to last. So it's operation salvage of anything that can be reused. And it's also a sort of a bit of a race against time. My neighbour has given me these decking boards, which are just laying on the grass and obviously getting saturated every time it rains. But decking boards are impregnated to be weather resistant, so I've got the materials I need or require to rebuild this structure and build back better. That also, I feel, is very much a theme around this whole winter solstice and how the sun begins its ascent. In the same way that we come into this reality knowing everything, then we go through that process through the external stimulation of forgetting, and then having to remember. Otherwise we are dismembered. You are putting yourself back together again. So this all to me makes perfect sense. So it's funny how this weekend I've got these stomach cramps again, but they're now lower down. So something is passing through. I'm shifting something, and I would say this is more spiritual that is being played out in the material, but it comes back to, if what I impart in these videos is what I was meant, is the purpose of me being here, then my work is over and I no longer need to stay. But I would like to witness all the fun that is going to unfold over the next sort of 10 to 15 years. So I'm going to end now on this cliffhanger. What is my mission here? It's the same mission that it has always been in every incarnation, in every avatar that I have occupied, and that is to destroy worlds and end lives. Now that might sound like that's really frighteningly evil, but is it? As much as anything else, I'm going to leave you to mull that one over, because have you gone into the negative default programming of what you've heard? I'm here to destroy worlds and end lives. Does that mean I'm some sort of genocidal mass murderer? Or could it mean something else? I'll leave you to ponder that, but I will explain what I mean in the next video. It is far from what it would first appear. So with that, have a beautiful, beautiful solstice, and know that things always follow the pattern that the negative will come first. If you react to it, you set yourself into a loop, a feedback loop, and you will have that lesson to learn again because you didn't recognize it. Hence, you also have the Saturn returns every 30 years. So if you don't get it at the age of 30, or it could be plus or minus several years either side of that marker, you can get it at the age of 60 or at the age of 90. That is referenced in the Old Testament when it talks of Sarah, as in Abraham and Sarah having a son at the age of 90. It's to do with Saturn returns. It's not a physical birth, obviously, at the age of 90. So we'll leave that there, and yes, wishing you a wonderful solstice, and as always, unconditional love to you all. Look at that, 2222. Just can't make this up.